The Shep Naz podcast begins now.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Shep Naz podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Zack, and I'm here with my good friend, the one, the only Pastor Paugh. And we are starting off the week right, man.
Yeah.
It's a happy Monday to you.
It is.
Yes.
Monday.
You know how it goes. If you've been around here on the podcast, we're going to be going over and digging in a little deeper into Rob's sermon from Sunday. Another great sermon. And this will be part one of that conversation.
Yeah.
So what are we getting talking about today, bud?
Well, we're still walking through the 10 Commandments. Mm-hmm. We're on the Ninth Commandment, which means
it's crazy.
There's only one left, and there's a collective amen from everyone, including me. I'm like,
right.
Wow.
You're ready to move on.
Yeah. So, but it's been really good.
Yeah,
So we're on the Ninth Commandment, which is you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Mm-hmm. So I think at first glance or first thought, you're like, oh, you shouldn't lie.
Right.
But it's actually not just about lying, right? So it's kind of interesting. And I want to share some info on the podcast that didn't make it in the sermon on Sunday. But so some of this it does. But like when you think about this passage of Scripture, with God talking about lying and false witness and everything, he's pretty serious about it, because in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 and 19, the Bible says, there are 6 things that the Lord hates. Hates is a strong word.
Yeah, it's not, not a small implication word.
Then it goes on, it says, no, there's 7, and then it lists them: haughtiness, which is pride; lying; murdering; plotting evil; eagerness to do wrong; a false witness; and sowing discord among brothers. So of the 6 things, or the 7 things that the Lord hates, 2 of them involve deception, which would be lying and bearing false witness, right? That means that of the things the Lord hates, almost a third of them have to do with this.
Yeah, big deal.
and the word hate is an interesting word. So I'm like, let me look this up in another version. So one version uses the word disgusting to the Lord. Another word is detestable to the Lord. Man. Another is loathes with a passion.
Ooh.
And another is abomination. And I'm like, those are like heavy words.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Lord is like not into this.
Yeah.
Like this is not a good thing.
If you look at it any other way after hearing those.
It's kind of like, yeah. So to not think that he doesn't like that is crazy.
Yeah.
So the immediate context for this commandment is judicial in nature. In other words, the commandment actually governs legal testimony that would be given in a public trial. So to understand why the Lord's giving this commandment, it's helpful to know a little bit about the justice system in the ancient world. Yeah. So in the ancient world, if you were charged with a crime, you had little protection. In fact, you were presumed guilty and had to prove your innocence, whereas the legal system today is everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So it was flipped back then.
I was going to say total opposite.
Yeah. So to be, charged of a crime, you're immediately guilty, and now you have to prove your innocence. The other thing that's interesting is that there were very few standards for the presentation of evidence back then. So you think about today in the courtroom and crimes, if you watch TV shows, and, I don't know if it's all real, but there's a lot of, we get DNA testing, and you can test people's blood and saliva and find things out, and you can do ballistics and see if this bullet was shot from this gun, and how, just all the ways that they have to enter evidence today is crazy. That did not exist back then. Yeah. In fact, the primary way that people were convicted of a crime came down to someone's testimony. And so you give a testimony, you could, convict someone. Yeah. And to make matters all worse, most ancient courts were willing to convict someone on a single testimony rather than the corroborating testimonies from multiple people.
That's crazy.
So today, an eyewitness testimony carries a lot of weight, but if it's corroborated with other testimonies that say the same thing, that's like heavy evidence, right? So what happened is because you were presumed guilty at the start, there was not much evidence that was ever entered into anything, and there was just one testimony is all it took typically to convict someone. And most crimes back in the ancient world were capital offenses where you would die, right? So the words of a testimony could be fatal to someone.
Right.
And so, like, if I'm mad at somebody and I'm like, I just want to get back at them, I'm like, all I got to do is just say, I saw them do that, and then I could, they're guilty, presumed guilty. There's no evidence except my testimony. And I mean, so it was like a crooked system.
Right.
So God comes in and he addresses this with his people. He's like, this isn't the way I want it to be. And so he says to his people that no longer am I going to tolerate false witnesses against your neighbor. I don't want you to do that anymore. And then it's really fascinating, and this is, I'll just share a little bit here. It was really fascinating to learn how God changed the judicial system, right? So what existed in what we just talked about, but with what Moses begins to enter after the 10 Commandments come into it, it's like, you got to have, you are not presumed guilty before innocent, or before you committed the crime, you were presumed innocent.
Yeah.
The word of one testimony meant nothing. You had to have 2 or 3 testimonies. And if it was a capital offense and you were one of the persons who provided the testimony that created this person's conviction, you had to be the first one to pick up a stone and throw it to kill them.
Man.
So in the old system, it was like, I can just lie about somebody and I can get my way. Now it's like, it's not just you lying, it's another person lying. And if they're convicted, you're the one that throws the first stone.
Yeah, that blood's on your hands.
Yeah. And it goes back to, where Jesus in John chapter 8 with the woman caught in adultery.
Right.
All the guys were there, with their stones. And Jesus says, well, the one of you who is without sin, let him be the one to cast the first stone. And they all drop their stones.
Right.
Because that's like, I don't want that innocent blood on my hands. Or even if it's not innocent blood, you don't want to carry that.
Right.
So the Lord really changed all of that with this commandment. And this commandment really ushers in a whole new era of judicial things or whatever. So thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. So you might be tempted to think, well, I don't get called to court every day. I don't have to testify against anybody.
Right.
So I'm kind of off the hook on this, right? But if you thought that, you would be wrong.
Yep.
Because that's not really how it goes. So the Ninth Commandment also extends from the courtroom to all forms of lying in everyday life. And so there, even though this commandment is in particular is judicial in nature, every commandment also applies to lesser sins of the same kind. So, for instance, I'm not to bear false witness against my neighbor and convict him of a crime, but I also should not bear false witness against my neighbor, or I should not lie to my neighbor. Just like the whole commandment of thou shalt not commit adultery, should not commit adultery, but then there's lesser ones, right? Shouldn't be unfaithful, whether I'm married or not married, or I shouldn't treat someone poorly sexually, or so it goes all the way down these lesser crimes, and this is what it means. So when God says not to bear false witness, the Hebrew word for false means to mislead someone. So in other words, the idea here is that if I intentionally or unintentionally cause someone to believe something that's untrue, and it leads them into a mistaken action, a belief, or a wrong direction, I've bared false witness, or I've lied, right? And I like the idea behind this, because it says, if my lie leads someone to do something wrong because I lied to them, or if my lie causes someone to believe something wrong or go a wrong direction, like giving him directions, like, this is how you go, take a right, and I tell him take a left, but I knew it. That's, kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways that we can lie, and we'll just cover a couple of them here real quick, and we'll wrap this up today, because I know everybody's got a lot going on. But one of the ways that we can lie is, there's 4 ways that I had talked about on Sunday. One of them is just to contradict the truth. And so that's just to basically speak contrary to something that we know to be true. So it's like saying, I know this is true, and I'm going to tell you the exact opposite, right? And we see that, a good example of that in the book of Genesis, right? So God puts Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and he says, you're free to eat from any tree in the garden, just don't eat from this one, because if you do, when you eat of this tree, you will surely die. Right. This is what God says, right? Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 3, serpent comes in and he said, did God really say that?
Right.
You know, and Adam's like, yes, he did say that, right?
Actually,
but
yes.
then Satan is like, oh, you're surely not going to die. The serpent said, like literally Genesis 3:4, you will surely not die, the serpent said to the woman. That was, he contradicted the truth. God spoke a truth, said, this is what's going to happen to you if you do it. Satan's like, nah, that's not going to happen. And we do this sometimes too, right? You know, sometimes the same reason that Satan did this to Adam and Eve, he was leading them astray.
Right.
He didn't care about them. He was trying to get back at God. So he was trying to lead them into a place that would cause harm or, you know, it would lead them astray. He was seeking revenge or whatever. But we do it all the time. We contradict the truth. Sometimes we contradict the truth to avoid getting in trouble. Maybe when we were younger, for our parents, I remember a few times when I may have done that as a young person. Or you get I got pulled over the other day just in the back of the church in the neighborhood here, and I'm like, I saw the lights. And I'm like, I don't know what I did. Like I really seriously didn't know what to do. And the officer comes up and he says, "Did you know what you did?" And I'm like, honestly, I don't. I'm not sure. He's like, well, you kind of was a rolling stop. He said, wasn't the worst rolling stop I've ever seen. And I'm like, I honestly didn't realize I did it. Didn't see you, didn't know, wasn't even in a hurry. Just, you know, but there are other times when I'm like, did you know how fast you were going? I'm like, no, officer, how fast was I going?
No way.
So right. So we can avoid getting in trouble, or sometimes to keep from hurting somebody else's feelings, or just to avoid an inconvenience. Like if I tell the truth, this is going to be a long day,
Right.
kind of deal, right? So that we do that. So we contradict the truth. Sometimes we twist the truth, right? And to me, those are the most dangerous lies ever. The ones that they take a little bit of truth and they mix it in with the lie, and it becomes confusing because we're thinking, I know that's true in here, and then there's something that's not true. Maybe I just don't know. So we end up believing these things, right? And I think that it's difficult to discern sometimes those kinds of lies that are twisted a little bit, and it happens in pop culture all the time. In the music, the lyrics of music, in movies. I think that it happens a lot in kids shows. Oh yeah, cartoons and stuff like that. I mean, you probably have kids you're watching
right
cartoons
in that
and
world
stuff.
right now.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what did they just say?
Yeah,
what did they just do? That's not true. And then you feel like you got to go back and correct that with your kids or whatever, which is good to do. But here's the thing: truth is never diluted. It is either 100% truth or it is not truth at all.
Right.
A half truth is not a truth, and that's I think in the culture in the world that we live in, we're like, oh, there's a little bit of truth in that, so it's not so bad. No, it's as bad as a straight up lie,
right?
Because if it's true, it's 100% true, or it's not. Like Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," and when he said the truth, he's like 100%. He's not like 95%. Truth. He either is or he isn't, right?
Exactly.
And that's the way it is with truth. So and then the other two other ways, and we'll wrap this up, is that we neglect the truth, and so we allow falsehoods to go unchallenged. And Paul says, "Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we're all members of one body." So to put off falsehood means that if I hear something that's not true and I identify it, I have to confront it. Right? Or I have to call it out, but I can't just let it go on as an assumed truth, because somebody who doesn't know the truth hears that and they think, well, Zack knows the truth. He didn't say anything, so it must be true. Right. So I've neglected the truth, and then by my neglecting the truth, I've allowed someone else to go down the path that is toward a falsehood.
Yeah, and I think that's something that us as Christians struggle with a lot, because we're always very afraid of, like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings, or I don't want to like drive them away from the church. So, they're going to openly tell me something that I know down deep inside, I'm like, that's not the truth. But if I confront it right now, then I that would hurt their feelings. So that's something I feel like I struggle with. And I think like we struggle with as Christians in general, just because we're afraid to hurt people's feelings.
Right. And there's so much in the world that is not true.
Right.
And you can't, I mean, honestly, you could go around every day and think, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. Right. And you end up becoming the truth police or whatever. But I think the idea behind this is that in the context of relationships of people that you care about, when you're confronted with a falsehood in their presence, to not confront it is to give credit to it or credibility to it.
Yep.
And that other person who trusts you says, oh, this must be okay. And again, I know it's hard, and you have to, it's hard because you can't do it every single time you see something.
Right.
You don't want to go around being, labeled like,
Mr. Know-it-all, holier than thou.
Yeah, but in the context of relationships that you care about, it's really important. William Barclay is a guy that he does commentaries, and I really like his stuff. I've liked his stuff forever. Yeah. He said it's an important principle that a cowardly or careless and irresponsible silence can be as senseless a crime as a false and lying speech. He said the sin of silence is as real as the sin of speech.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty powerful.
That is very powerful.
Yeah, and so it make sure that we don't do that. And then the last way is just to inflate the truth, and we all know what that means. To exaggerate, make yourself look better, or some situation look better, or whatever. And inflating the truth is not good either. So yeah, there's a lot. It's interesting to me, these simple commandments that are just like a couple words. You're like, oh, I got that. It's no big deal. But it's so detailed, and there's always more behind it than what you necessarily imagine, and God adds more to it. So, I don't know, that's maybe a good place to wrap it up today.
Yeah, agreed.
So jump in tomorrow, got a couple more things to share, and go from there.
Absolutely. That's really good stuff, man. Well, hopefully you have enjoyed this episode. I know I have. This has been a cool conversation, and again, just getting to dig a little deeper into what we were talking about on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's conversation as well. So hopefully this has either helped you, maybe convicted you. I know it has convicted me on some things today in a good way. I love it. So if there's anything you want to talk about even further, feel free to reach out to us at podcast@shepnaz.org. Let us know what you think. And hit us up on the socials. Feel free to share this. And if you haven't checked out the sermon, make sure you go back and watch it, because we'd love for you to have better context as to what we're talking about. And we look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Have a great day.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.